Today's video is sponsored by VALOI. In this video, we're going to look at a method for scanning 35mm film that, after testing recently, I think is one of the best options out there, just simplifying the process and giving you high quality results quick. And that is the VALOI easy35. So I've been personally using VALOI's products for about the past year, ever since I decided to switch from using a dedicated film scanner, moving to using the GFX to digitize or scan my film negatives. And I've been really happy with this decision. A big reason is just how much quicker the entire process is. But earlier this year, they released the easy35. I'm sure some of you have seen this. And I was finally able to get my hands on one of these, test it out for a while. And honestly, I was just really impressed by this, to the point where if I only needed to scan 35mm film, I would choose this over their advancer setup that I'm using. And I would definitely choose this over other methods out there on the market, which I'll talk about after. So today in this video, I'm gonna do an overview of the easy35. I'm gonna show you how it works, scan some film and show you the process, look at the results, and then also look at some comparison images that were done with some other scanning methods. Also, VALOI is giving anyone watching this video 10% off. I'll put a link or a code below to check that out. So the easy35 is very reminiscent of old slide copier attachments that have been around forever. So this isn't an entirely new concept, but what they've done is they've taken that idea and kind of refined it and made it an all-in-one solution. So this is essentially a box that has a high CRI light inside of it that's rechargeable, and it's both brightness and color temp adjustable, which is really cool. And basically what you would do is you take this and you attach it to a camera and macro lens combination using extension tube setup just to get the right distance. And then you would turn it on. You would basically run your film through this and photograph each individual frame. And then you would take those, put them on your computer, run software to convert the negative into a positive, do some color correction, and that's it. So really simple to use and really quick, which is what I love about it. And in my opinion, has a couple of advantages over their advancer setup, with the only disadvantage, obviously, for some people being the fact that this can only do 35mm film. So with the kit, you get the main easy35 unit with the built-in light, which is replaceable if you ever needed to. A set of step-up rings, you can attach it to your lens, and extension tubes for spacing. And you can also buy the optional duster and different film masks. So the kit comes with a standard 35mm mask, but you can also buy this sprocket mask, which reveals the sprocket holes on 35mm film. And then I believe they're doing APS 110 and 126 in the future. So there is a little bit of flexibility with this kit. So current cost here in the UK is £203 for the easy35, and then the duster is an extra £40. But with this, of course, you do have to factor in a digital camera and a macro lens. If you don't have that, that's gonna add to the price. Obviously today we're using a GFX. This is not a cheap camera system, but it's all that I have because it's what I use for my own work. I will say though, from my experience, I did a video on the channel a little while ago doing a budget build, and I bought older Fuji X-A3 mirrorless for I think £125, and then a vintage Canon macro lens. And the results were very close to matching the ones out of the GFX. I'll show you that after. So you don't have to go and spend a lot of money at all on a camera and macro lens combo to still be able to get nice high quality results. Okay, so I'm gonna run you through the scanning process now, and then we'll convert some images on the computer. I don't have a full roll of 35, so we're just gonna do a strip here, about 6 frames. But basically what you wanna do, obviously turn on your camera, power up the easy35, and I always run this thing at full power. Brighter the light source, the faster the shutter speed, which is gonna help you avoid any shake, even though we're gonna use a remote for this, but obviously with a macro lens, important that you don't have any shake at all and you're just hands off the camera. So I'm gonna go ahead, take the film now. I have the duster unit here on the side, and I'm gonna run this in and basically feed it in until this first frame is lined up. So aperture is wide open. On the GFX, I have focus peaking turned on. And what I do is I zoom into 100%, and I just find an area in the image and focus until the peaking that is showing up is kind of at its sharpest. So that looks pretty good right there. I'm gonna zoom back out. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stop down to f8. I've found just, obviously using this setup and doing tests that f8 gives me kind of like the sweet spot when it comes to sharpness, avoiding any diffraction. And then from here with the GFX, when I'm doing single frames like this and I'm not doing like a batch conversion afterwards, I just run this in aperture priority mode with 2/3 of a stop of exposure compensation, which I'll set that down to. And I found that always gives me pretty nice results. And then color temperature on the easy35, I leave set right in the middle when I'm doing color negative film. I have found it doesn't really make a huge difference from the tests I've done, so I just end up right in the middle. And then white balance, 5600 Kelvin is what I've set mine to. We're gonna do a balance off the film border when we convert afterwards anyways. Anyways, we're ready to go. So I have this on electronic shutter. I have my Bluetooth app here on my phone. So we're gonna just go and shoot this first frame. And then we'll feed the next frame. Shoot that one. And a couple more here, but you can already see, especially when you have a full uncut roll, this is just so much quicker than other methods. So that's it. So we've done 6 frames. Anyways, let's jump on there now. We'll take a look at some of these. I'll show you the conversion process and we'll look at some comparisons as well. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the conversion process. I'm just gonna do one image quickly to show you how it works. This is just for anyone who's completely new to this camera scanning setup. I'm using Negative Lab Pro, which is a plugin for Lightroom. There's other standalone options out there. I just did a video about one, which is called Smart Convert, which I quite enjoyed as well. But we have our image here, so this is the one that we shot during all the scanning there. And first thing I'm gonna do is go up here to the profiles and select Negative Lab V2.3. And this kind of just preps the image for conversion. And then I'm gonna go and choose the white balance dropper here and just pick the little bit of film border you can see here that's exposed, and that's gonna white balance our image for us. And now we are basically good to go and convert. So I'm gonna hit Control N and gonna set this back to 0, this border buffer. So color model, you basically need to play around with these, see which one you prefer. I like Frontier. Pre-saturation, I always just leave to default. And then this border buffer, if I go ahead and set that to 2%, you can see it crops the image. And this actually isn't cropping it, it's just sampling a smaller portion of it for its conversion. The idea is you don't want that film border to be showing when you convert your image. So 2% is gonna do it. And I'm gonna hit convert. And this will go quite quick. And as you can see, it did a pretty good job. Usually this program does. You always still need to go and tweak. I find it's a little bit too aggressive at the start. So I'm gonna go here to the tone profile and select linear. That's usually my go-to. It's a little bit softer. And then I'm gonna go down here to the white balance and probably just add a bunch of warmth to this. Might increase the brightness a little bit. But even something like that with minor tweaks. I'm not gonna spend too long on it for this video, but even that looks pretty nice right there. So I'm gonna uncheck, make a copy, and I'm just gonna turn off the program's sharpening, and I'll just hit apply, and we're converted. So we have our first file, and then the only other thing I would do is go up to the crop here, select 4:6, and I would just give this a little bit of a crop with the proper 35mm aspect ratio. And then go into 100% because we would need to sharpen this image. You always have to sharpen your film scans, especially smaller negatives like a 35mm. And this is all going to depend on the resolution of the file you're dealing with in terms of how much you need to add. But I'll just try and do this quickly. Bump up the radius a bunch. Drop the amount down, but even something like that looks pretty good. So yeah, simple as that. You can see we end up with a almost 6,500 pixel on the long edge image. Really nice colors and tones. And this is why I really enjoy camera scanning. You just have so much more potential in terms of resolution compared to like standard lab scans. And I find doing the conversion yourself and using the right software, you can get colors and tones that look quite nice. I also scanned the same frame on the Advancer setup with the GFX just to demonstrate that both methods using the same camera are going to give you the exact same result. And I wanted to do this just because I think some people might look at the easy35 as a bit of maybe like a beginner option, but really you're doing the exact same thing with both methods, so you're going to get the same results. Okay, so next up, we're just going to take a look at a few image examples from some other methods and a couple comparisons as well. We're going to start with the flatbed scanner. I don't have any direct comparisons, but I wanted to show you these because this is a method that I think a lot of people start with when they first get into film scanning at home. It's kind of how I started out, but I've never been happy with them for 35. You'll see here if we go into 100%, this is with really kind of aggressive, I think maxed out sharpening. And you're just not getting this like level of fine detail. It's just a bit chunky compared to what you would see with a dedicated film scanner or with camera scanning. And this is at full resolution on the 4990, but even if you drop down to half resolution, same thing. Sometimes you'll see a little bit better results, but even if we go into 200%, everything's just like a little bit chunky. So you're leaving a lot behind, and when I first was starting out, I didn't really know any better, so I kind of just thought like this is how it's supposed to look. Until I went and I started using a dedicated film scanner. So I ended up buying a Coolscan 9000 by Nikon, which is like one of the higher end models. But even with this one here, this is from a Plestech 8200. This is like a $375 scanner. This is from a video I did a while ago on the channel. And you'll see this is almost a 5,000 pixel wide image. Really finely detailed scene. And if we go in to 100%, you can see did a pretty amazing job, like sharpness and detail, especially in a scene like this. Looks really nice. And then if we go to this next one, this is the exact same frame. This was done on the Coolscan 9000. And again, it looks amazing. So dedicated film scanners, especially for 35, are a great option when it comes to like the end result they produce. The only downside with them is that they're scanning kind of frame by frame, and depending on the model and the brand you have, they can take, 2 minutes, sometimes even up to 3 minutes per frame. But if we go and we take this Nikon image and we put it on the left from the Coolscan 9000, I have a very similar frame. So this is, I think, one frame after. They ended up on different strips and I couldn't find this one. But this is one that I just did with the GFX 50 and the easy35 unit. So if we go into 100% here on the Nikon, we kind of use this as like our benchmark, and then we go into 100% from the GFX one. You can see, my opinion, from like a detail standpoint, they almost look identical. So really capable with this setup. Obviously the GFX is a pretty expensive camera system. It's gonna be similar in price to what you pay for this Coolscan 9000. But I have this same frame here that I scanned or digitized months ago when I did that cheap budget build setup. And this was using that like $150 Fuji X-A3, like 5-year-old mirrorless camera and a vintage macro lens. So really kind of affordable setup. And you'll see if we go into 100% here and we look at it compared to the Nikon, it's not as nice looking at it in person here, but considering the price gap, it's so incredibly close. And especially if we go and we take this GFX, this is the same frame, the one that I just did. So GFX on left, really cheap Fuji X-A3 on the right. Again, the GFX looks better, but I mean, they're pretty close. Again, considering the price gap between these two, it's huge. So I wanted to show this just because I'm always trying to stress to people, if you want to get into using a camera to digitize or scan your film at home, you really can get started with quite an affordable setup. You don't have to go out and spend a ton of money on a camera and lens. You can go and buy like an older mirrorless and a vintage macro lens. And for a pretty affordable price, have a setup that's going to give you results comparable to methods that are quite a bit more expensive. So as I mentioned earlier, if I were only shooting 35mm film, I would choose this over VALOI's Advancer setup, which I use. The benefit with that system is that you can scan 35mm and also a number of medium format sizes. But with the Easy35, I just really enjoy the simplicity of it in comparison. So basically, you take the time to set this up once, get the correct distance, and after that, it's always ready to go. You detach it from your camera, and whenever you come back, you just reattach it, and you don't have to worry about leveling the camera with the film. And then also just the fact that this is kind of like a self-contained unit with the light source inside, it means that you don't have to worry about like reflections from stray light. You can set it up in a situation like this, just sit at your desk and run film through. And then also, since you don't need like a copy stand and stuff, don't really need a permanent space for something like this. It's so small and compact. Once you take this off your camera, you could set it aside, you could put it in a drawer and just take it out when you need to use it. So that is a really, really big benefit for me. Okay, so that basically wraps this one up. Hope you enjoyed this one and this look at the Easy35 and that this gives you a bit of an insight to what this is like. If you're just getting into scanning film at home, especially if you own a mirrorless camera already, go pick up a cheap old vintage lens. You can grab something like this and fairly quickly you can have just like a simple, complete setup that's going to give you really nice results. Yeah, anyways, that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any questions and I'll see you pretty soon.